Soviets built arms that were bigger and stronger than most modern lifters today, but they didn't rely on curls, machines, or long arm workouts. They used a few simple movements and a system that changed how their muscles actually worked. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to train like them to build an arm size without wasting time. But first, let's look at how they actually train their arms. Most people think big arms come from curls, pushdowns, and basic movements. The Soviets didn't really focus on those, yet their arms were still bigger than most guys today. And by the way, your arms are not only biceps. Your arms include triceps, shoulders, and the bicep. Most men put all of their focus on the bicep, when it's actually the tricep that makes the biggest difference in how thick your arm looks. So the Soviets build their shoulders, biceps, and triceps using movements a lot of people don't even try. And it all starts with the clean press. You put a barbell from the floor to your shoulders, then push it over your head. But the press wasn't just for shoulders. This was where most people got it wrong. Every time you lock out a heavy weight overhead, your triceps are doing the hardest part. That final push where the weight either goes up or drops. Here's a little tip from me, Baron. Always try to feel the stretch in the triceps. If you don't feel a stretch, you're probably hitting a wrong muscle and you should work on your execution. So when you're pressing 4 to 6 times a week, you're already training your triceps hard without needing any extra exercises, which is extremely helpful if you have a busy week. Now, they did do weighted dips on lighter days, but honestly, that was just extra. With this, your shoulders and triceps are almost covered. But what about the muscle most guys care about? The biceps. See, the Soviet didn't really rely on curls as much. Most of them built their biceps with weighted chin-ups. Their special forces had a standard of 18 strict dead hang pull-ups, and their gymnastics could climb 20-foot ropes using only their hands. Compared to that, curls don't really matter. But what matters is clicking the subscribe button. Of course it does. So if you actually want to test your biceps, try one thing. Do a max set of strict chin-ups. But don't do any swinging or hanging. Cheating is not allowed if you want to grow real biceps. So now you know the movements. But if you just add those into a normal gym routine, nothing special will happen. Because these exercises only work when you actually follow the Soviet system behind them. The funny thing is, your biceps, triceps, and shoulders are small muscles. They recover much faster than most people think compared to the big muscles like your back or your chest. And the Soviets understood this, so they trained their arms around 3 times a week. Think about how most guys train their arms right now. They do 20 sets of curls on Monday, then their arms are so pumped they can barely drive home, but then they don't do anything for the next 6 days. Some people even do 8-hour arm workouts. But the Soviets knew that makes no sense, especially if you train small muscle groups. Instead of cramming everything into one day, they spread the same work across 4 to 6 days. Now that doesn't mean you train every day. Hear me out so we can adapt this to your daily life. The Soviets love to do 3 to 8 sets each session. You leave the gym feeling strong and not exhausted like your gym bros. Sorry, did I say gym? I misspoke because you actually don't need a gym for these exercises. So it doesn't matter if you train at home, at the park, or in the bathroom. But the key is you come back the next day and you can do it again. And I want you to avoid these mistakes most people make. A typical lifter does mostly 20 sets in a workout. But by the time they reach set 12, their form starts slipping and they use momentum. And since they rely on momentum, most of their sets don't count. It's like studying for an exam by flipping through the pages without reading anything. The hours mean nothing if the work isn't real. A Soviet athlete, on the other hand, might do 4 sets of weighted chin-ups 3 times a week. But a crucial note here is that every rep is clean and controlled. But something else is happening too. Their nervous system is getting better at using the biceps properly on every pull. It's not about finishing the set, it's about building strength and muscle. In a second, I will show you the method they actually use to build their arms through the day, but for now, let's take a look at their weekly training. Because understanding this gives you a much better picture of what they should do and what they should not do. Their weekly training usually looked a lot like this. Shoulders got around 16 to 25 sets. Biceps and triceps got about 14 to 20 sets each. I'm still talking about the weekly training, by the way, not the daily input before you guys freak out. When you look at it and spread it out, it's only 6 to 8 sets per muscle per workout. It's nothing extreme because it's not meant to destroy you. So now the question is simple. If the total workout is the same, why does this way actually work better? Well, this researcher named Alexei, I'm not even going to attempt to say his last name because I don't want to disrespect him, went through years of Soviet training data and found something that doesn't sound right at first. About 68% of their lifts were done between 70 and 85% of their max, and only about 5% went above 90. What this means is most of the time, they were not going to their actual max. But what it actually did to their arms was the opposite of what you'd expect. Let's say your best weighted chin-up is with 50 pounds added. On a normal Soviet day, you would use around 35 to 40, and you would stop every set 2 or 3 reps before failure. Not just on easy days, but every day. Now that might sound too light to build any muscle, right? Well, that's what this researcher thought at first, but what he found made sense. Because the Soviets don't make workout plans like the West, who keep pushing every set to failure again and again and then wonder why nothing changes. To the Soviets, arm training was practice, not punishment. You either control the weight or the weight controls you. One helps you build strength, the other builds bad habits that takes months to fix. And this created a massive question. If you're not pushing to your limit, what actually makes your muscles grow? Well, he found the answer, and it wasn't about lifting heavier. He found that programs with changing, uneven loads worked better than smooth, steady progression. In fact, they performed about 61% better. So instead of doing the same thing every day, the structure kept shifting. 10 sets of presses on Monday, 4 on Tuesday, 7 on Wednesday. Even the weight on your chin-ups would keep changing. Nothing would stay predictable. So the training keeps working without needing to push yourself to exhaustion every time, and that's exactly what Greasing the Groove method says. Even if you only use this method, your arm would grow more than what your current routine is doing, according to science. But most people mess it up in one simple way. So here's how to combine all of this properly. Now, you got exercises, the frequency, the intensity rule, and the daily method. But how do you actually put all of this together? Because most people hear this and they start applying it and then they mess it up. Well, there are 3 simple setups, and pick one that fits your life. And also, there will be a link in the description with the download once you're done to help you pick yours. And you can grab that after the video is over. If you're short on time, use a doorway bar to perform your chin-ups on it. With a doorway bar, you can also train your back with pull-ups if you want to. Anyways, chin-ups for biceps, diamond push-ups for triceps. Do about half your max set each spread across the day. 6 days on, 1 day off. But keep in mind, just quick short exercises with Soviet volume, no 1-hour arm workouts, okay? For example, I did this method during the pandemic at home, and my workout went around 30 minutes 6 days a week. Since you do not need to train your big muscles like the back and the chest that often feel like I said earlier, that alone adds more weekly arm volume than most gym routines. And you don't even need to leave your house, which is probably the hardest part for most people, including myself. If you have access to a gym, train 4 days a week. Use standing press, weighted chin-ups, and weighted dips. Don't try to train the same way every day. Go heavy one day, then lighter or heavier reps on the other days. Change the weight and reps often, and stop every set before your form breaks. But the option that works best and is the closest to how Soviets trained is a combination of both. Easy sets at home during the day, and 3 proper training sessions at the gym. One builds skill and efficiency, and the other one drives growth. The main rule under all of this is simple. Change your total volume week to week. Think in totals, not just daily numbers. And don't chase failure. Chase reps you know you can own. Soviet lifters were pressing insane weight. Soldiers were doing pull-ups every time they passed a bar. None of them had a separate arm day, and they didn't need one. Shout out to this comment from the last video, and some of you guys are saying my voice is AI, so let me know how I can fix that so you don't think that. Alright, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.